Daf Tzadi Hey Amud Aleph, the Mishnah at the top of the Amud. Zok the Mishnah, Ma Bein Pesach Harishon L'Sheni. What are the Chelukei halachas between Pesach Rishon and Pesach Sheni? If someone who is unable to do the Pesach Rishon is nitcha the Pesach Sheni, what are the different halachas? Harishon also B'al Yirah B'al Yamatz. Pesach Rishon, a person cannot have chametz in his possession. So Idlav B'al Yirah B'al Yamatz. Hasheni chametz and matzim b'bayis. Pesach Sheni, he can have chametz with him in the house. He can have chametz and matzah in his home. Harishon ton halabachilos. Pesach Harishon, they have to recite at the time of the eating of the Korban Pesach. They recite the hal. Vasheni in a ton halabachilos. Pesach Sheni is not ton halabachilos. But zevazeh ton halabasiyosa. But in both cases, both Pesach Rishon and Sheni, when they're makriv the korban at the time of shechting the korban, there they do say hal. V'necholim, so they're both in both cases eaten roasted, and al matzah zmorim, and it's eaten with matzah and more. V'doichen as a Shabbos, and if the yudal falls out on Shabbos, it's doichen Shabbos, and you do the hakrova, the shlit, the hakrova on Shabbos. Taisus brings down the Tosefta that says that there are other chilukim as well. That Pesach Rishon is nechal v'gimel chaburas and 3 chaburas. Pesach Sheni is not. Also, the Pesach Rishon is told Bikur Daled Yomim that the korban has to be left for inspection before 4 days before Pesach. It has to be you have to designate the animal, and it has to be put in for inspection and check that there's no mum 4 days prior, but not on Pesach Sheni. But Tana V'Shaya, we say the Tana, it's not all inclusive. Zok the Gemara, Tana Rabbanan, Kechol Chukas HaPesach Yasu. So the Torah says that the Pesach Sheni is done Kechol Chukas HaPesach. So the Pasuk says as follows, and it's important to note the details of the Pasuk because the Gemara is going to be darshaning all of the different components of the pasuk to arrive at the principles that what the chilukim between Pesach Rishon and Sheni. So the pasuk says that the Pesach Sheni is done on the second month, the month of the year, and on the 14th of the month, bein arabayim al matzos marim yachlu. So it says that it's done, and al matzos marim, you have to eat it with the matzah more. Lo yashiru mimenu ad boker. It also says the same prat that we have by Pesach Rishon that you can't leave over until the morning. Now it says a third prat. It says v'etzem lo yishbaru boy. It says that you can't break a bone of the Korban Pesach. So all of these are similar Pesach Rishon, Pesach Sheni. Kechol chukas haPesach yasai. So then it says a klal, a generalization. Kechol chukas haPesach yasai. So that the Pesach Sheni is done with all of the halachos of the Pesach Rishon. So we darshan as follows: Tana Rabbanan Kechol Chukas HaPesach Yasu Isai, and the Pesach Sheni is done with all the halachas of the Pesach Rishon. B'mitzvah shebegufa kosim medaber. Which mitzvahs are we talking about? Mitzvahs begufa, those that are intrinsic to the Pesach, to the Korban Pesach, not things that are which are outside of the Korban Pesach. So, for instance, B'al Yirah B'al Yamatz is not part of the Korban; it's something that's outside of the Korban. So, when we say Pesach Yaso, what halachas are referring to? Those which are intrinsic to the Korban Pesach. Those that are intrinsic to the Korban Pesach, how the Korban Pesach is performed. So that's what it's referring to. So, mitzvahs she'al gufa minayin. How do we know that even mitzvahs she'al gufa, which are not intrinsic to the Korban Pesach itself, but are peripheral to the Korban Pesach, like, for example, eating it with matzah more. Now, it's not totally separate from the Korban Pesach, because it's the manner of eating the Korban Pesach. It's the way you eat it, but it's not in the actual performance of the avodah of the Korban Pesach. So how do I know to include those things? Talmud Leimer al matzah marim yachlu. That's why the Torah specifies al matzah marim yachlu to teach me that that also applies. Yachal afilu mitzvah shaloi al gufa. You might think, well, once we're being marbe, we should be marbe even shaloi al gufa, even things which are shaloi al gufa, extraneous, which are not connected. So the Gemara will ask, how can you say that? We just started off saying the mitzvah shebegufa kasim b'daber. So the Gemara will analyze this. But Talmud Leimer of Etzem lo yishruvoy. It says another prat. It says another specific case of Etzem lo yishruvoy. You can't break the bone. So we learn now. Mashir says miyuchad mitzvah shebegufa, avkol mitzvah shebegufa. So therefore, from that we learn out that no, the halachas of the korban that apply to Pesach Sheni are the ones that are mitzvah shebegufa, that are intrinsic to the korban Pesach. Isi ben Yehuda, he says, no, you don't need all of these pratim, you don't need all of these specific cases, because Yasu Oisai, it says, Kechol Chuchas of Pesach, it doesn't have to say Yasu Oisai, it says Yasu Oisai, you should do it. So by saying, preparing it, but mitzvah shebegufa kosam adaber, what we're talking about are mitzvah shebegufa. So what is common Pesach Sheni to Pesach Rishon, the mitzvah shebegufa. Now the Gemara is going to analyze this. Amar Mar. So it starts off saying that that's referring to mitzvah shebegufa. Then how do I know mitzvah al gufay? Because it says on matzah smorim yachlu. Then it says yochalav fila mitzvah shaloy al gufay. So, frag the Gemara, what do you mean? Yochalaf mitzvah shloy al guf. Oh, I'm right, but mitzvah shebegufa kasam adaber. We started off saying kol chukas al pesach yasu. I said what we're talking about, that we're talking about the mitzvahs shebegufa that are intrinsic to it. Where it says hachikom. This is what it means to say. Well, the Torah gave this prat of matzahs amarim yachlu, and then afterwards it says kol chukas al pesach yasu. Now, since it says a prat with the klal, perhaps then I would say that I would broaden it. If it hadn't said al matzahs marim yachlu, it just said kechol chutzah pesach yasu eisoi. So that's the opening line of the brisa that says that I would say is mitzvah shebegufa. But now that it says a prat, it says al matzahs marim yachlu, and then it says kechol chutzah pesach yasu eisoi, alma yasu eisoi live davko. Therefore, the Yasu Eisai is not Dafka. It's not Dafka the Korban Pesach itself. So, Ema Havaleke Prat Uklal. Well, maybe I should darshan it as a Prat Uklal. So there's a Prat, it says Matzos Mram Yachlu, and there's a Klal Kachol Fukas of Pesach. Vinasa Klal Meisav ala Prat. Now, one of the Yud Gimel Midas says that you have a Prat and Klal. It's a Klal Meisav ala Prat, and Vafil Kol Mili Nami, which we normally darshan kol milinami, and therefore I would say that it includes even things which are not intrinsic, even things that are extraneous. Kamash Malan, that's why the Torah says 3 pratim. It says the 3 cases. Now, if it was only a prat that a klal moisav ala prat to be marba kol mili, it would only say 1 prat. But it says 3. It says that amatz mar yachlu lo yasher mimenu ad boikim. It says 3 pratim, 3 cases. So obviously, it's not to teach me that a klal moisav ala prat to be marba kol mili. It's specific. So we have 3 pratim, and we have the prat, and we have the klal that broadens it. So now the Gemara will work through the cases. But before we work through the Tanakama, we analyze Isi ben Yehuda. Isi ben Yehuda, hi esamay obidle. Well, according to Isi ben Yehuda, since we're saying that the Yasu Oisai is telling me Oisai and it's Dafka Oisai, and therefore can't be a klal Moisav ala prat to be marba kol mili, it has to be therefore Dafka, things that are intrinsic to the Korban Pesach. So why do you need the second prat? Why do you need the prat of etzem lo yishruvoy? What do I need this prat for? Which is actually the 3rd prat. But what do I need the etzem lo yishruvoy? More answers me boy leilach and etzem sheish boy moyach vechad etzem shein boy moyach. It's to teach you etzem lo yishruvoy that you can't break the bone, whether it has marrow or it doesn't have marrow, you can't break the bone. So it's telling me the specific halacha as far as breaking of the bone, that it doesn't matter what type of bone it is, it cannot be broken. Even if there is no marrow in it, you can't break the bone. Rashi and Taisus both ask over here that the Gemara seems to be only bothered by this prat. What does Isi ben Yehuda do with this prat? Well, what about the prat of Neisser? how does he darshan? How does he count for that prat? And the Gemara doesn't deal with it. They leave this unanswered. So therefore, that's how Isi ben Yehuda learns that. Rabbanan hayasu eisai my avdilei. Now, according to the Rabbanan, they say that we have the three pratim, and therefore, because we have three pratim, we don't darshan with a klal meisav prat, and we're not marbe kol mili. Well, what do they do with Isi ben Yehuda's drasha that yasu eisai it? It doesn't that itself teach me that it's only things which are intrinsic to the Korban Pesach? More answer me. It comes to teach me that you don't shech the Korban Pesach if there's only one person participating. So therefore it says Yasu Oisa in the plural, Yasu they. So therefore, if it appears that there's only one person that's going to be pushed off, and Nidchut the Pesach Sheni, so Rashi says we're mitama somebody else, another person with a sheretz, in order to ensure that there's more than one person participating in the Pesach Sheni. Yasu, they should Yasu Oisai. The Kama Davshaladur Madrinan. As far as possible, we try to arrange that there are more than one person. There's at least two people participating in the Pesach Sheni. So Rashi says we're metamelim with the Tumas Sheretz. So he's going according to the Mandomar that the Pesach Rishon is not ein sheich nemzorkim al Tumas Sheretz. So therefore, that would push him off to Pesach Sheni. So now the Gemara is going to bring a baraisa that elaborates on the droshas of the Chachamim, how they learn out from this pasuk and what are the klalim of Pesach Sheni. Tan Rabbanan, Kechol Chulkas Pesach Yasu Aisai, Yachol Keshem Sharishan also Rabbayah Matzeh, Kach Sheni also Rabbayah Matzeh. You might think just like Pesach Rishon. It's also to have chametz in your possession. So to Pesach Sheni, there'd be an Isser Rabbayah Matzeh, Talmud Leimer Al Matzeh Simraim Yachluhu. So that's what it says. The prat that it says in the pasuk, it says Al Matzeh Simraim Yachluhu. So to teach us that the Yisurim have to be similar to Matzah Morim Yachlu, which is part of the eating of the Korban Pesach. It's not completely extraneous to the Korban Pesach, but Bal Yorah Bal Yamatzeh is not involved, not in the preparation and not in the eating, nor in the eating of the Korban Pesach. So Bal Yorah Bal Yamatzeh does not apply to Pesach Sheni. Well, I see over here that this is a mitzvah that by a mitzvah, that this rule applies to a mitzvah essay, which is matzah s'mraim yachlu, that the mitzvah essay of eating Korban Pesach. Mitzvah loisasa minayin, how do I know that it also applies to a loisasa of the Korban Pesach? Talmud Leimer lo yashir mimeno b'baiker. It says a lav of lo yashir mimeno b'baiker. Don't leave over the Korban Pesach till the morning, which is a lav. So I see that this rule applies to a loisasa as well. Well, leaving over to the morning, that's a lav and nitiglas, because you can remedy that. If he leaves it over to the morning, then whatever left to the morning is burnt. That's a lav and nitiglas. Mitzvahs loisase gomer minayin. How do I know that the rule applies to a lav gomer where it's not a lav and nitiglas? Tamaloimer v'etzim lo yishvu. That don't break the bone of the Korban Pesach, which is a lav, and it's a lav that's not nitah classy. So we see that in all of these cases we apply the principle, which is ma prat mufurish mitzvah says v'loy saseh nitah classy v'loy saseh gomer. The prat is in all of these cases. It's an essay v'loy saseh nitah classy and v'loy saseh gomer. I've called mitzvah says v'loy saseh nitah classy v'loy saseh gomer. It applies to all of these cases. So therefore, now we learn out how the pratim, the Gemara is going to darshan how the pratim and the pratim each have these three pratim, the prat of the matzah marim yachlu, that not to leave over to the morning, and that's from Leishvu Voy, and we also have the klal of Kechol Chukas HaPesach Yasu Oisei. So beklal the matzah marim ma'ikam marbe, when we have matzah marim yachlu, what do we marbe from the klal? So what do we include? Tzliesh. So it says we have something that's the principle is that if there's a mitzvah essay And we say that it's intrinsic to the Korban Pesach. It applies by Pesach Sheni. So what is included? What are being marba by the klal called Chukas Pesach more than the prat itself, matzos Merayim? Matzos Merayim was an essay. We're also marba the tzli eish, that the Pesach Sheni has to be eaten roasted just like Pesach Rishon, which is something which is similar to the matzos Merayim. It's an essay, it's a mitzvah essay that's intrinsic to the Korban Pesach. What do we exclude? What are we excluding by the prat? What do we say? Well, it has to be similar to the prat, but something that's not similar is excluded. It means that removing the chametz, that does not apply by Pesach Sheni. You don't have to remove the chametz. Why don't I say just the opposite? No, mitzvah de gufa adif, because the mitzvah which is intrinsic to the Korban Pesach, that is something which is something that takes priority, and therefore we say that the matzos Merayim yachlu is intrinsic and roasting on the fire is, so therefore those are included, but hashbas asar is excluded. Now the second case is b'chlal the lo yashir mimeno biker ma'ikam marbilei. So the second example, the second prat is lo yashir mimeno biker. Don't leave over to the morning. And kechol chukas Pesach. What are we broadening? Are being marba from this lav hanitik essay? Being marba lo yisaitzi mimeno. We are being marba that you cannot take out from the chabur. That it says, the Torah says that so it has to be eaten in one house, and you can't take it out. So the way the Bryce over here is learning it is that's considered nitik l'aseh, because if you took it out, it should be eaten in one house, meaning bring it back in. So just like by Neisr it's allowed in nitik l'aseh, if it's left over the morning, there's an essay to burn it. Here also, if it's taken out from the house, it should not be taken out from the house. If it's taken out, you can bring it back in, which is not the way that we learned earlier in the Gemara. We learned on Pei Daf Pei Hey that if it's taken out of the chabur, if it's taken out of the house, it is a psul of yaitse. It's possible it can't be remedied. But here, we're learning not that way, and therefore, what's included is the isser of taking it out of the house, just like by Pesach Rishon, it can't be taken out of the house. Here also, so we're being marba that this case over here, what are we excluding? What is the prat excluding? It's excluding lo yirav lo yimalsa. It's excluding the love of lo yirav lo yimalsa, which is also something which can be remedied, because if it's found, you can burn it, you can destroy it. So therefore, we're saying that what we are including is not taking it out of the house. But as far as Bal Yirah, Bal Yimasa, that's not included in Pesach Sheni. There's no Isra Bal Yirah, Bal Yimasa, Pesach Sheni. Epochana, again, Mitzvah the Gufa, or if something which is intrinsic is what we learn out, and that has the priority. Bichlal the Etzem Lo Yishvu, why the third case was not breaking the bone. So what are we, the klal kol chukas Pesach? How are we broadening that? My kamarbe or marbe al teich lemimeno no. We're being marbe the lav, which it's a lav. It's not an essay. It's a lois essay. It's not nitik essay of not eating it raw or partially roasted. But prate my kamamayit. What is it? What are we? Prate. What are we excluding? Not to shechel korban Pesach if there's chometz in your possession. So that does not apply. That does not apply. Epochano. Why did I say reverse it again? Mitzvah de gufa, adif. The one that's intrinsic, that is the one that is included, and what's not intrinsic is not included.